Special color presentation of CFPL-TV.
14 years had passed since the station had experimented with color broadcasting. In September 1970, it finally became a reality.
This is Western Fair Week in London, and this week Mid-Make Magazine takes a visit at the Western Fair. We're here at the Fun House today, and really the whole Western Fair in its midway could be considered a fun time this year, so why not join us as Midweek Magazine goes to the fair.
Some features showcased it better than others. I think of a colleague, Terry Colbert, who is now a cameraman for Global Television, and Terry convinced Ron that he should do a feature called Terry's Women. And Terry always had a particular admiration for the female form, and he was given free rein to do a feature a week on some woman that had attracted his attention.
It was before the days of Women's Lib, so they didn't think anything naughty of me or that I was being chauvinistic, and I just had an amazing time. Well, I got to the point where Ron decided that I was showing probably too much women in bikinis, and it looked like Sunshine Girl, so he said, "You've got to start doing some older women." So I found I think she was 73 years old, and that was it. He didn't need any more older women after that, so I was back to doing bikinis again. I did one with there was a guy, he was a teacher at Field Tech in the art department called Don Bonham, and he did, it was called the Maggie Sickle, and his model's name was Maggie. And what he'd do a casting of her totally naked, and then he'd make a fiberglass body for these Yamaha bicycles, these motorcycles. So I shot the whole process of this model being put into the cast. Totally naked woman. When that went to air, there was one letter came in, and it was a letter of congratulations for having enough guts to do this on television.
This is one of a number of different types of converter. As you can see, there are a number of push buttons on the unit, and the total number of push buttons effectively multiplied by 2 through the use of this switch gives the subscriber roughly double the number of channels that
Is this going to be a cost?
Despite government regulations, the trickle of cable subscribers turned into a torrent during the 1970s. Early converter boxes could bring viewers up to 15 channels, and soon they would be a fixture in area homes, stepping up the competition with CTV, Global, and American networks. This prompted CFPL to promote itself through major television stars, who weren't always that cooperative.
We were in Chicago to do interviews associated with a new show that was starting on the air called MASH, and it was to be about a medical unit set up in Korea during the war of very strange offbeat people who also happened to be doctors, and the antics they got involved in. A light-sided look at the war, if you can have a light-sided look at a war. When I started to interview them, I lost control the second the mics were open.
Movie MASH was one thing, a one-shot effort. How can you sustain a weekly series, week after week after week, on the same thing?
Are you wearing a hairpiece?
Often, but not today.
The net is beginning to show. No, it's curling up under
It
your...
is. It does that under the lights.
Wave there. You've got a Wayne Newton wave in your hair there, and the net's beginning to show the brown stuff. Look, it's running down his face.
When you get down to shooting the series, what can we expect? What are we looking for? Is it the same thing as the movie exactly? Or...
Oh, shut up.
I don't know that he can expect anything.
You can expect a funny show.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can expect a show that's based more on the book than it is on the film. I think you can expect a show that's probably less violent than the wonderful world of Disney and the FBI. I think you can expect a show that's got at least a smattering, if not a little involvement. May I use a medical term?
Please do.
Sex.
They knew what they'd done, and after we shut off the cameras and they were getting ready to leave, they said, "We should explain. You're doing interviews with 20 different stars today. They all look the same. We figured it's a brand new show. How will we stand out? Let's attack the local guy. So the audiences will either love us or hate us. So thanks for putting up with us."
Anyway, I must say
Larry
that you guys
Gelbar.
really...
Of all the interviews we've had, may I finish? Of all the interviews we've had,
This is the
people
worst.
that we've met, no one. Guys, that you are probably the dullest.
Yeah, sure.
Less discriminating viewers could tune into Junior Talent Hour, starring a former Boy Scout leader and a 180-pound St. Bernard named Hamish.
We had some philosophy about the show. The children would enjoy themselves. We didn't do a lot of takes to get the absolutely perfect show. We tried to do it as naturally as possible, and our children enjoyed it as much as possible. We went from kids who had no talent to the St. John children who are concert violinists today. So we ran the whole gamut.
But Junior Talent Hour was the last of a dying breed at CFPL. An increasing reliance on American shows meant it was also time to say goodbye to old friends. Romper Room was forced off the air. Young viewers now preferred slicker American shows like Sesame Street. The local game show, Act Fast, ended one of the longest runs in the station's history when it bowed out after 21 years on the air.
It was a simple program, just charades, and people had to guess them, but there was something exciting about it at that time and place, and then things changed. Television moved on, and the rest of us did too.
Good afternoon. Today we're going to take you to a dairy farm in Elgin County, operated by...
Farm reporter Roy Jewell retired from the airwaves after 24 years. His low-key interviewing style now dated, and his subjects mundane. I think they sometimes try to manufacture situations, he told a reporter. I have never tried to be an expert.
You want that, Roy?
He was a real farmer, and he talked to real farmers, and he brought animals into the studio, and as a result, it was very much about farming life. And I had not grown up on a farm. What I did was bring a business perspective to what a farm show might be. That is, there was no discussion of, here's what we need to carry on, or here's what ought to be in it. And so I had an opportunity to create something that I was able to, I guess, put an imprint on. And what happened is you can always find a fan club in television. So I can't say it was any more successful or less successful. We know that we lost some of Roy's viewers, and we know we gained some of our own.
The station launched its first morning show, Morning Break, which soon beat out similar network shows in local ratings, largely because of its offbeat content.
And we would discuss topics that people just hadn't talked about on television before, and people would phone in with, sex questions, not being able to get it up or whatever. And, your face is turning red and you're trying to just accept this as normal.
But the most significant change in the station's look came in September 1971, when part-time news anchor Hugh Bremner stepped down. He was replaced by 42-year-old Port Colborne native Jack Burkhart.
The new price index came out today.
Slick, handsome, and professional, Burkhart immediately won over the viewers. Within 2 years of his arrival, the evening news had expanded to a full hour, and Burkhart was on his way to becoming the most recognizable face in the station's history.
There were fewer news sources for the consumer. We didn't have the 500-channel universe that we have now, and getting the news at 6 o'clock was probably more of an event in the lives of a family than it is today. A stronger bond would have been built between the anchor and the audience.
Singer Della Reese is in serious but stable condition in London's University Hospital this evening.
Jack had a style of his own. Of course, in those days you didn't stand up, so his shortness wasn't obvious. We knew that. But Jack had a very believable style. He was a very classy guy, I felt. But he, unfortunately, when he went into politics, he had to give that up.
A few months after taking over as anchor, Burkhart left CFPL so he could run as a Liberal candidate in Hamilton. His opponent in the 1972 federal election was Lincoln Alexander.
At the time, the Liberals were reduced from majority to a minority government, and there was certainly a strong local candidate in Hamilton at the time, Lincoln Alexander, a fine man, who of course went on to larger things, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario.
By November, Burkhart was back at the anchor desk. For the next 9 years, he would report on elections rather than running in them.
You don't put it up there because it's just about time. We got 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. Kiss him. Happy New Year, everybody.